Facebook.com/Sactown Sports 1140.
All right, Matt Verderame is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Matt, as always, we appreciate you. Matt's from FanSided. Is that the last time, Matt, that we see Aaron Rodgers in the NFL?
So, I mean, it's a lot of money to turn down going forward. Like, he's not exactly a free agent. He's got major dollars for the next couple of years. So I think he still will play. Now, will it be in Green Bay? I don't know. If he's not in Green Bay, there's a bunch of teams that would make sense. Jets, the Raiders, so on and so forth. But I still believe money talks. And in that case, like next year, he's due 50-some-odd million. I don't think he's going to walk away still being able to play.
Yeah, and I think he's playing next year. Not only do I think he's playing for the Packers, because that whole power struggle a couple of years ago was for him to determine his own future. And when he walked away from Green Bay, I don't think he bails on that now and just walks away and chooses to go to another team or accept going to another team.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I also think on top of that, like, there's a lot of dynamics that go into this. If you're a team acquiring Aaron Rodgers, are you willing to spend $50+ million for a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers? I don't know that you're willing to do that. If you're the Packers, are you trading him for less than a huge haul? I don't know that they get a huge haul considering his age and his salary. Look at how it worked out for a lot of teams this offseason. Matt Ryan gets traded, it doesn't work out. Carson Wentz gets moved, it doesn't work out. Russell Wilson, a complete disaster for Denver. So I think especially with a draft class chock full of young quarterback talent, I think a lot of teams that need quarterbacks are going to say, you know what, we'll just take a guy on a rookie deal. I think it's more likely than not he's back with the Packers.
Matt Verderame from FanSided is with us here, Cattles Ramie, Sactown Sports. Matt, your thoughts on the Sean McVay situation in L.A.? Mike Florio comes out last night and says that, McVay just doesn't want to be involved with a rebuild.
I've been writing, I went back and looked for about a month in my Stacking the Box column. I thought that this would be it for McVay with the Rams because, one of the things that I noticed was there was a report, I want to say early to mid-December, about offensive coordinator Liam Cohen potentially going back to University of Kentucky, where he's kind of gone back and forth from there in the Rams, and to go back and be the OC. And that set off a lot of alarm bells with me. You're not going to go from being an NFL offensive coordinator to a college offensive coordinator unless you're fired. And Cohen was in no danger of getting fired.
That's a great point.
They're extremely close.
Yep.
And so when I saw that made me think there's one reason that Cohen would take that job if he knows that McVay's leaving. And so I've thought for a while now that this was probably going to be it for McVay, and I still feel that way.
Who makes sense for you when it comes to Sean Payton? He's been rumored to the Broncos have asked for permission to talk to him. Obviously, Jerry Jones has been after him for a long time. Where do you think he ends up landing?
It's a weird thing to say because typically if you make the playoffs, you're safe as a coach. If the Cowboys or the Chargers lose this weekend, I think there's a very real possibility that those teams are looking at Sean Payton. And look, make no mistake with Dallas. Dallas would be the leader in the clubhouse if they want to be because they have all their picks. They can trade with New Orleans. Jerry Jones and Sean Payton are about as close as it gets. They are extremely tight. You go out to NFL events, they find a way to see each other. I think that the Cowboys, if they were fire McCarthy, if they lose to the 8-9 Bucks, I think that that's where Payton would go. Now, if that doesn't happen, I think the Chargers would make all the sense in the world. They also have their picks. They have Herbert. It's Los Angeles. It's a dream scenario for Payton. You have a young, ready-made quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. I don't think Denver makes a lot of sense for two reasons. One, if you're Payton, why would you go there? I get the money, but you're going to get the money anywhere. Secondly, if you're Denver, you need to hold on to your draft picks. You just traded away Bradley Chubb to get a first-round pick back. You just traded a ton of capital for Russell Wilson. You need that capital to build out this roster. I think Payton's going to use that offer he gets from Denver, should he get one, as a leverage to go get an offer elsewhere.
Matt Verderame is with us, FanSided, Stacking the Box podcast. He's on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Matt, what is Arizona doing? I mean, they signed Kingsbury and Keim to extensions last offseason to only have them both be gone several months later.
It's funny, when that extension barrage came down with Keim and Kingsbury, we were all at the scouting combine in Indianapolis. And I remember talking to people in the league and also just talking to colleagues that cover the league as well. And everybody kind of shared the same sentiment. Is A, everybody was stunned. And B, it seemed like a shot across the bow at Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray was very adamant publicly that he wanted an extension, and they wouldn't give one to him, but they gave one to Kingsbury. The Cardinals have been bad for the better part of their 100-year history, and this is the reason why. They have no continuity. They can never make the right decision at these key positions. I think it's very, very likely, if you look at their history under the Bidwell family, they're going to hire somebody who's a first-year head coach or somebody who's a retread that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of options. They are not going to go out and make an expensive hire. That's not what they do. If you look at their history, they almost always hire first-year, first-time head coaches who they can give a cheap salary. And with Kingsbury having to get paid out his contract, they are definitely going to look to go on the cheap with this if history is any indication.
How far have you moved on, if not Brock Purdy himself, but your belief that the 49ers with Brock Purdy are a viable contender?
Oh, there's a question. I think they're the best team in the NFL in terms of their talent, and they're loaded everywhere. All Purdy has to do is not make a big mistake. Now, that's easier said than done. You get in the playoffs, things tighten up. The only question I have with Purdy, who's looked great to this point, is the Niners, because they're so talented, they just get ahead of these teams by big scores, and then they just run away and hide. It's not easy to score 31, 38 points when you're doing that, but it's easier than when you're playing a team that is right there with you, that's maybe winning the game, that can play you a little bit more straight up, or maybe even play you in a way where they have the advantage because they're up by a touchdown or 10 points. That's my question, is if they play Philly, if they end up getting to the Super Bowl and they see a team like a Kansas City, a Buffalo, Cincinnati, what happens if the game doesn't start out well and it's 17-7 and that other team's not the Raiders? Like, then how does that look? But I think the Niners, they're so talented on both sides of the ball that if Purdy just has just an average stat line, they're probably going to win. They're loaded across the board.
Matt, tell me why Nick Caserio should get another shot at naming a head coach, the third in 3 years.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't have had a chance to name the second one or the first one either. He shouldn't have that opportunity. The Texans are going to have their fourth coach in 4 years. And, I've seen people come out with and bash the Texans for Lovie Smith, and last year it was Cully who was one and done. And that's totally justifiable. I don't have any problem with anybody bashing the Texans for all that. But I think with the Texans, it's just flat out incompetence. I don't think it's anything more than that. But I also think with Houston, they hired those guys knowing they were going to be one and done. They hired those guys knowing this is not going to work. We don't care if it works. We're just buying time. With Cully, it was getting through everything with Deshaun Watson. This year, it was just getting to the number 1 or number 2 pick, which somehow they lost the number 1 overall pick. It's shameful. It's disgraceful. I don't think Cully or Lovie Smith had any chance to succeed. But the Texans, I got to tell you, if I was a quarterback and they said to me, we're going to draft you, I would go the route of John Elway or Eli Manning and say, no, I'm good. You can trade me. There is no way I'm going to a franchise that can't hold on to a coach more than 17 games. I think it's gonna put a lot of people off for sure.
His name is Matt Verderame. You can check him out. FanSided, also Stacking the Box podcast. Matt, thanks for the time, man. It's always great catching up. Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you. There goes Matt Verderame, Folsom Lake Honda Hotline, Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Yeah, that Houston situation is a disaster. It is a disaster, and I don't really know who's going to be willing to kind of say yes to that head coaching job. I would have to imagine it's going to be a first-time head coach. I know Matt was taught about that with Arizona. I think you could see the same thing with Houston, because what respected coach who,
if you're someone who's sought after,
you're not.
Why would you go to
if you're DeMeco Ryans, why would you ever go to?
There's
Houston?
Just no way.
That
There's
has
just